Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Downtime in the Ring. This week, we are back at it again. No more just me and Chris. Chris is obviously gone for the week. He had vacation. So, I have a special guest this week. I have a man who has multiple podcasts, who gets to listen to amazing stories. I have Marcus Deangelo this week.
What's up, Donovan? Thank you so much for having me on the show, brother.
Dude, this is going to be so cool. You have kind of like a goal that I have. You get to sit down with such amazing people, listen to their stories, and we'll get into that. But I was going through your Twitter, and I'm really excited because there's not a lot of people that will openly mention this. I was going through your Twitter. I'm going to assume you are a fellow brother. You are a fellow fan. You are one of Dim Boys. Are you a Cowboys fan?
Oh, dude, a monster Cowboys fan. Huge Cowboys fan. You
Yeah,
are all
dude.
right. I liked you already. I like you even more now.
Dude, what you said about Dak Prescott, I was like, this man's got to be a Cowboys fan.
Hell
He
yes.
has to.
Hell yes. Love
Oh,
Dak Prescott. Like I started watching the Cowboys actually right around the time they won their last Super Bowl was when I became a fan. I didn't even know what a Super Bowl was. I was just a kid and I was like, I like their uniforms and my brother liked Emmett Smith. And next thing you know, I'm a lifelong Cowboys fan and just waiting for that next ring, dude.
oh man, I've been waiting for that. So I can't even say I've been a fan since their last Super Bowl because I wasn't even born then. So I've never gotten to experience that. So you guys have like this magical memory that I have yet to experience. So it warms
Oh,
my heart that you defend Dak. Man, it warms my heart.
dude, there's so much hate for Dak online, and I don't get it. Like he's an upstanding guy. Whenever he's put in the right position, he always plays well. It's like, what is not to like about this guy? I love him.
I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine about that, and my buddy said he struggles in the big games, and overall, I'm like, dude, he does, but after that, he comes back, he's on fire. I love everything about it. I love the Cowboys and with all my heart. I was so happy. I was like, man, I have something to talk about. I have another Cowboys fan on here.
I had this exact same conversation with both Jake and Ted because they're both Cowboys fans as well.
Oh,
Yep.
oh, dude, that's
Yep.
awesome.
Yep. So when I found out that they were Cowboys fans, I was like, hold up, let's pause the podcast and we'd like just talk about the Cowboys for a while.
Oh, that is awesome. Oh, that is something. Let's go away from that and let's actually let everyone know how you know Jake and how you know Ted and how you got into ad-free shows and everything about that. How did all of that start?
Man, I was like any other listener, up until 2021, where I had started listening in 2017, and I'd listen, to Conrad's stuff while I was just like at work or doing whatever. And so whenever the opportunity came around, I was working as a marketer for a really small garage door company. And so like yes, I was involved in marketing, but it's such a small company that like I had to help with other shit too. So I'm like stocking parts in like the parts room. I'm helping to unload trucks. And whenever I'm doing that kind of stuff, I'm just listening to podcasts the whole time. Well, here I'm online and I saw that they were hiring a social media guy. I'm like, I do marketing. I can help them there. So I sent an email and then I thought about it for a minute. My brother Dominic is a wrestling journalist. And so I was like, hey, Dom, this guy, Evan Polisher, is hiring for ad-free shows. Do you know him? And Dom was like, yeah, I know him. And I was like, can you shoot him a text? And he was like, yep. I got an email that night and the ball started rolling with me working behind the scenes for ad-free shows. So fast forward a little bit, I'm only doing social media for them. And I'm in Dallas for WrestleMania and 2022, and I'm in the Starbucks in the building where the WrestleCon is going on, and who's standing in front of me but Jake Roberts. And so I tapped him on the shoulder. I was like, hi, Jake. I work on the DDP Snake Pit social media. I'm Marcus Deangelo, work for Conrad Thompson. Get to chatting with him. He's like, you're a social media guy. And I was like, yeah. He was like, could you help me on my social media? I was like, yes. And so Jake and I developed a friendship. Fast forward even more to late 2022 and DDP Snake Pit's getting ready to go away. And I turned to Conrad and I was like, hey, look, I was like, the RSS is there, like it's all set up for DDP Snake Pit. I think Jake still wants to do a podcast. what if I hosted with him? And Conrad was like, yeah, dude. So I texted Jake. Jake was all about it. Then Jake hooked me up with Ted. And next thing you know, man, I went from being like a listener, just a dude who listened to these podcasts at work, to doing it for a living.
That is insane, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You have like almost every listener's just journey, what they want. Obviously, you were in marketing, so you have that step above. But yeah, that's an insane how looking at that and having somebody like myself who's like, oh my god, dude, that's so awesome. How does that make you feel?
I mean, it's crazy, and there are still times when I've got to like pinch myself, because it's like, look, it's Jake is my buddy now, and he's my business partner. We signed an LLC together, like we are official business partners. But like every once in a while, I've got to pinch myself, like, oh yeah, I had a toy of him when I was a kid. Or I
Yeah.
used to play, on video games with him, and now he's like my pal. And same thing with Ted. So it's like, for the most part, I'm so locked in on like the job aspect of it, because like I've got a daughter, my wife is pregnant right now, so I'm like, this is a job and I'm making money. But every once in a while, I'll get like that moment of clarity where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing something really incredible for a living. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you still are a fan overall. Even though
Yes.
this is a job, do you ever feel like you ever stray away from that, or is it every time that you go, you're ready for a podcast, you're ready to do something? It is work, but it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, there's a lot of work and a lot of preparation that goes into one episode, because I produce it myself. I do the social media. I do a lot of the research. I actually just brought on a guy to start helping me with research on DDP Snake Pit, or on the Snake Pit rather. So like there's a lot of work and a lot of build up to get to that moment where I'm in the studio with Jake and talking. But yeah, it's I'm always a fan. Like I'm always pumped up whenever I get in there with him. I'm like, I can't wait to hear him answer this question, or I wonder what he thinks about this. Ooh, did he ever meet this guy? So it's a lot of build up, but once I'm there, I'm locked in, brother.
Okay. I saw that you also work with Hacksaw.
Yes, I do. So Jim and I have a ad-free shows exclusive podcast, and I owe all of it to Jake, really, because I became buddies with Jake, and he hooked me up with Ted. He also hooked me up with Hacksaw, and then it's like it's kind of like this. These wrestlers all know each other, so it's like they'll be at a convention or something, and somebody will be like, "Hey, I saw your social media; it looks awesome," and Jim will be like, I can hook you up with the guy," So it's kind of like this game of telephone.
You're oh my god, you're just like you just go to a convention and he's just hooking you up with the boys
Right,
from
yeah,
the old days. That blows my mind. And I'm gonna pause and just be excited because I'm like, and I get to talk to this dude. This dude came here. This dude is where I want to be eventually, and he's just here. And shout out real quick to Montezi for actually hooking this up. This is awesome. Montezi's kind of he's been looking out for us a lot, and so we can't thank him enough. And I'm so excited to see where this conversation goes on
Dude,
to
I love
day two.
Montezi. I love Montezi. He wrote a song, an original song for the Snake Pit. He wrote the opening theme for Everybody's Got a Pod. He also wrote the opening theme for the Hacksaw Hour on ad-free shows. So, I mean, dude, he's been awesome. I love the guy. Can't say enough good things about him or his podcast.
Oh, TZ's table. Oh yeah, which we are official sponsor of. Yes.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. So you get to see some of these guys sometimes behind the scenes when they're vulnerable telling stories. How does that also feel?
It's cool. It's different, because it's like, I think that wrestlers have been telling their story for so long. They always do radio interviews, or like a podcaster, for example, hires them for like a 1 week of their episode. So and ordinarily they play the hits when they go on these radio shows or on these podcasts, where it's like, Jim will talk about knocking out Andre the Giant. Jake will talk about the snake biting Randy Savage. Ted will talk about kicking the basketball. It's like the same kind of stuff over and over again, where whenever I end up talking to these guys, and they're like, oh, okay, I don't have to like tell a story now, they can just be themselves. It's cool, because you get like a whole other vibe.
It does it just feel more like talking to a friend than it actually, talking to a WWE Hall of Famer at that point?
Oh, for sure, for sure. That's it's like I said, I'll stop recording and we'll just bullshit about the Cowboys or whatever.
I could only imagine those conversations really just honestly just, getting to forget that you guys are on camera or you guys have recording equipment and just talking about, how everything's going. How do you feel? Your memories that are coming back, Jake's still in AEW technically and go and working with is it still Lance Archer?
Yep, still with Lance Archer, and he just got in with the Righteous last he was on TV.
Oh, that's gonna be an interesting.
Right? What a good pairing that is. Dude, anytime you can get Jake Roberts on your TV, no matter what the circumstances, like he's still an incredible promo, still got that name recognition. Like, dude, it's I would love to see him on TV more often.
What is your dream guest? If you could go off and just do a solo interview, who's the one person that you would want to interview the most?
Man, kind of a tie. I would love to talk to Hulk Hogan. That's like, it's I do a podcast with Ted and Jake and Jim, and it's like those are three of the biggest names from the golden era of wrestling, right?
Mhm.
And then, but the biggest name from that era, and the guy who I'm hearing all these stories about along the way as I'm doing the podcast with those other guys is Hogan. And it's like, man, I'd love to ask him about this or that, all these things that kind of come up on these podcasts. I'm like, ooh, it'd be cool to hear Terry's take on that. So that probably him or Stone Cold. I love Stone Cold's podcast back when he was doing it so consistently, and it's like, man, I feel like I could really get a lot of cool answers out of him.
Would you be nervous? Because I would be. With Stone Cold, I'd be completely nervous.
I think maybe at first, like maybe just kind of like uncomfortable feeling a guy out, but really it's like, once you kind of get used to doing this stuff and talking to them, it's like, yeah, I mean, they're superstars and they're Hall of Famers. And yes, like we had toys of them when we were growing up and played as them on video games and all that really cool stuff. But like when it really boils down to it, it's like they're people and most of them are really awesome people, So it's if you can just kind of like let your guard down and allow yourself to feel comfortable and vulnerable and make mistakes along the way, it's man, you'll have a good experience talking to these guys.
Oh man, one day, I'm gonna get there.
Dude, it's I'll give you the same advice I give everybody who asks me like, "Hey, how do I get a job like yours?" And that advice is if you love something enough, you should be willing to do it for free for a while, no matter what industry. If you're looking to get into entertainment in any way. So like if you want to work in the NFL, start making calls and make offers to do things for free for people. Like whether I don't know if you can just get on the sideline that way, but like say like, "Hey, I'll come down and volunteer when you guys are at practice or whatever." Like start offering to do things for free for people, and eventually when there is a job in that field, they'll say like, "Hey, I know a guy and he works his ass off every time I see him."
Okay, cool. I'm definitely gonna take that. I'm gonna take that to heart.
Yeah, man.
Because seeing everybody getting to do it now just motivates me more that I want to have those connections and have those opportunities. And it's not for the clout. It's just because these people have such amazing stories. I can only imagine what they've told you off camera, how you've gotten close to them because you've had to have bonded with them.
Oh, sure, sure. And really, it's like, it's like I said, I'm a huge wrestling fan. I'm always going to be a wrestling fan. But, after a while, especially in like the pro setting, you've got to kind of take off the fan hat and just like treat them like a person because they're used to people asking them, like all the same questions and fawning over them and making a big deal every time, they make an appearance or shake your hand or whatever. And if you treat them like a dude, they're going to behave like a dude. you know so that's kind of been my mantra where it's like I'm never not gonna love them or their work, but like when I'm around them it's like, hey, they're a guy and we're trying to accomplish a goal together.
Yeah. So where did your love of wrestling begin?
It started I mean, it started with honestly, it was Jake and Ted, if you can believe it. I know it probably sounds like bullshit just because I do a podcast with them, but I remember being a kid and there was like this WWF marble set, and Jake was one of them. It was like 6 or 7 marbles that you got in the set. I actually just looked it up. It's on eBay. I'm considering buying it, but I had one of Jake, and I remember thinking like, oh, this guy's really cool. Oh, and he has a snake. Like that's really neat. And my first action figure ever. This is a great story because Dominic, my older brother, who's a wrestling journalist, he would always be the good guys whenever we play with our figures because he's my older brother. So if we were playing Batman toys, he was Batman and I was like the Joker. So when we were kids, our parents bought us wrestling figures. He got Hulk Hogan, and I got the heel, Ted DiBiase. So my first action figure ever was Ted DiBiase. So yeah, it's I started to like sympathize with the heels, you know. So those guys were like kind of my favorites growing up. I got out of it for a while, and then around 97, 98, I really got into the NWO storyline and never looked back.
Okay, so he's just beating you up, just saying, "I'm the good guy." And you're like, "No, this isn't
pretty,
how this works at all."
pretty much. I'd try to get Ted over as much as I could, but you know, he's the older brother.
Well, yeah, just beating you up, just saying, this is the right way. This is how faces do it."
That
Being
was pretty
slammed
much.
into the couch, and you're like, "I don't think this is how wrestling works."
Hogan's not going to do a lot of jobs, brother. That's just the way it is.
Oh yeah, that's true. I'm gonna fawn over just because you've had the opportunity to do something. You've made your mark here. And I can't say anything more than this is inspiring. I didn't think I was going to have, I didn't know what to think when Montezi said, "Hey, man, hit up my boy. Let's see how this goes." Because normally when he does that, it's a hit or miss. And I usually get really afraid because I'm like, well, I look up to this guy. This guy has helped me out so much. I don't know who I'm really talking to.
Right.
But you are where I see downtime, where I see me and my brother being. Not necessarily, having a legend on. We'd love to have multiple people. We want everybody to tell their story, but you are part of the industry that where we want to be. And that is, it's not wrestling. You're not a wrestler, but you are still in wrestling. You love it. This is your full-time job. This is what you enjoy. What's one word that you would describe for this? If you were, 10 years ago, how would you look at back at this?
Oh man, just blessed. I think blessed is the word. It really is. You know, there's so many circumstances had to come together the right way to put me where I am. And look, it's it's like I said, most of it has to do with hard work. And like, when I got brought on to add free shows and started working, doing the social media, I think it was like the first 3 or 4 months, something like that. I just did it for free. Where Evan told me like, hey, like we're interested in you for the job. It's kind of like the pieces and parts of it are kind of moving slowly. He was like, "How would you feel about just starting to do it, and then get your feet wet and get acclimated to what we do here, and then we'll get you paid." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, sure." So I did it for free for 3 months, and it was kind of like drinking water from a fire hose at first, where you're trying to keep up, and there's so much you have to promote and think about and do from each of these podcast accounts. And after a while you start to get used to it, and then all of a sudden I'm made full time. And it's really it's just about grinding, dude. And I know that that's like it's become a cliche nowadays, where everybody's like, just grind and good things will happen. It's honestly true, where if you just work your ass off and you're willing to put yourself in the position to meet people by going to conventions and just talking to people and telling them what you do, asking questions, and more than anything working your ass off, you can make it happen, dude.
I love that. So a few weeks ago, we had an episode where it was just me and my co-host, and we were explaining, how this podcast has changed our lives over the past 9 months. Ultimately, because we grew up as obviously we grew up as wrestling fans. We're together. We're the only ones really that are wrestling fans in the family, other than my grandfather. And we're like, man, it'd be awesome to talk to these guys. And there were times where I asked Montezi, like, how did you get, Teezy's Table, Swerve City podcast up? And he said, you can't get past the grind. And I asked him, like, I'm not trying to get past the grind. I just don't want to be caught up to where the grind is burnout. And we've gotten to talk about it, and we've said, we get to sit back so early, and every time that we talk about it, we are excited. And I wish you could have met him, but he's off doing something right now, so he's not going to be part of this episode. But we spend like 30 minutes after the episode, and we go over notes, and we talk to each other, and we say, okay, we could have done this better, or hopefully, this person wasn't offended by what we say. But usually they're more like, oh yeah, I had, a great time.
Yeah.
So getting to hear that we have to travel to conventions, we have to network more. I know we're in the right spot. And I just needed another person who's, where we want to be to say that. So thank you. That's awesome.
Oh, for sure, man. And like, really, I mean, I assume that you have a full-time job that you work on the side on top of doing this. And so, like, it's tough, dude, because you get home from that full-time job and you just want to like chill out. But like, so, I mean, whenever I started with ad-free shows, I was still working my full-time job, of course, because I wasn't getting paid by ad-free yet. So it's like, I'd come home after working whatever 9 hours, and I'd work another 4 to 6 hours, something like
Yeah.
that, and then, like, I'd, hang out with my wife and my daughter, and when they went to bed, I was up working more, and like, it sucks, and, it can burn you out, but I'm like, anytime I would start to get frustrated or it's like, "Oh, geez," I'm starting to get really tired, or I wish I could just watch TV or just relax, I'd remind myself, like, I'm watching pro wrestling clips and putting them on the internet, like, there are worse ways to spend my time, and that's
Oh,
really it.
I love that I can connect with somebody about this grind because you know it's throughout the day. It's sending emails. It's asking people like, "Hey, do you want to be on? Hey, can we collab? Hey, I've gotten to see your matches here, here, and here. Would love to interview you and talk about that." And then coming home and you know us trying to format the show, us trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to talk to this person? Who do we have next? Have we checked in with the people that we've had before just so that we can keep those connections good? So hearing that, it makes me happy. It's awesome, dude. Like you have now another person who's like, man, I want to be like that
You can do it, man. And another piece of advice that I actually heard probably inside of like 3 months ago is I also help to post produce Kurt Angle's podcast. So after the video is done, I edit the video together and make it ready to go out on the internet. And I was listening to his episode as I'm editing it, and one of the things he said was there was a coach or somebody that he dealt with who his mantra was "do it anyway." And meaning like you're going to be exhausted and not want to stay up for another 3 hours to get a job done. Do it anyway. You're going to not want to go to the gym and work out because you're tired from being at work all day. Do it anyway. And like anytime I start to get fed up, or anytime I start to be like, oh, I don't want to make a bunch of YouTube thumbnails, or oh geez, I have to schedule the social media for the week, or whatever it is that I have to do, that it's like I wish I could do something else, I always just repeat that to myself. Do it anyway. And I do, and afterwards I feel great about it. So it really is like going to the gym, where it's like you never want to go to the gym, but as soon as you finish going to the gym and your arms are sore from working out, or your chest is sore or whatever, you're like, man, am I glad I did that. It's the same thing with work.
guy. You really do love this.
Oh my god, dude. I'm in heaven for real. And like getting to talk to you actually is great, because it's like I'm just in work mode all the time, and I'm like, okay, I need to make this. I got to get this done. I'm like, oh, this bill is coming up. I got to make some money to pay for this, and like, oh geez, my daughter's coming in February. I got to pay for this. And getting to talk to you and really kind of think about it, I'm like, yes, I am. I'm really blessed. I'm really fortunate to be in the position I'm in.
Yeah, because you're living the life where I know that there's probably some people who are going to listen to this who listen to um the Snake Pit, who listen to every pod that you're on, who's listened to any wrestling pod, and they're like, man, I would love to be in that position. I would love to be Conrad Thompson, which there are some days where I do, when especially when he was doing with Bruce Pritchard. That's a person I really want to meet. So, you know, I've had those moments where I've been like, man, I would love to do that.
Man, and Conrad, and the common denominator with me and him and Paul Bromwell and John Alba and all these other guys, that Cassio Kid, that all have wrestling podcasts, is like, man, just nonstop work. Conrad had the mortgage, is he does the mortgage business, and then he's busting his ass, at night, grinding, getting all of his recordings done and making connections with people and doing what he has to do. It's the same thing with Paul Bromwell. He's got a full-time job, and he still comes and records his podcast. So it's like, man, there is so much work. I wake up some mornings at 7 and don't stop until 1 in the morning as a shoot, for real. That'll happen on numerous occasions throughout the week for me. But some days I just have an 8-hour day. Really all just depends on the day, and depends on me and how much I'm willing to do and put in that day.
That, like, to most people when they hear that, they're obviously going to be like, man, do I really want to do that? Would I really want to put me? I'm like, man, that sounds fun.
I
Like
mean,
the
like,
stress of it the stress of it to a point. Yeah, everybody has stress. Every job has stress.
yes.
Everything is going to give you stress. But then just sitting back, when you finally get to eat, or when you're taking a breather, or when you're not staring at a computer screen for 5 hours straight, and you had to give your eyes a break or they would have just explode. You get to just sit there and you're like, man, I get to do this. And there are times too where I don't even want to, I come home from work and I don't want to edit the podcast, and I'm like, man, I really don't want to. But then once I go through again, I'm like, oh yeah, that was a good story. Oh yeah, that was a good part. Oh yeah, that was something that we should have talked about more.
Yeah,
And next time we come back, next time we have this person, because I always make sure, hey, did you have fun? Yeah. Okay, I had fun. Cool. Because we're
that's
gonna
it.
have you on again.
Do it anyway.
Yep.
You're not in the mood to do it. Do it anyway.
That's so cool, dude. You've gotten a lot of different lessons from
Yeah, it's
just wrestling.
Oh man, it's been awesome, and I've been blessed to spend time around like a lot of these guys who have been super super successful in wrestling and got to pick their brains, and like Jeff Jarrett is another great example. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing without Jeff Jarrett, for real. He's helped me so much. He's putting a good word for me any opportunity he gets. He's just such a great human being. And you want to talk about a guy that grinds? Like there's a reason that Jeff Jarrett is who he is. There's a reason he's a Hall of Famer. Nobody grinds like Jeff Jarrett.
I've only gotten to witness Jeff Jarrett wrestling, and every time I do, I'm like, man. We tried to do a series for the channel before where it was just me and my co-host, and we would just react to the original TNA NWA pay-per-views.
Yeah.
And we made it 6 episodes in, because it was a whole different type of wrestling back then, and seeing a lot of Jeff Jarrett back then. So hearing you say this, it's like, oh, is okay. So he is that kind of person. All
Oh,
right, he's the
dude.
exact opposite.
Oh, dude, it's and here's the thing with Jeff, and I they actually talk about on his podcast My World, which I'm the producer of. His podcast My World, they talk about it all the time, where Conrad will say like, "Oh man, I hated you when I was a kid," and Jeff's like, "That's the idea. That's what I was trying to do," because he was a heel for the bigger part of his career. And but yeah, it's Jeff busted his ass, and he did it the hard way. The job wasn't there with WWE when WCW dried up, and he went and did it himself, poured his own money into something, busted his ass to get it off the ground, made it happen. And he was the only guy who he could rely on, because he was the only one who had stake in the company. So it's like, of course you're going to make yourself the champion, because like nobody else is under contract. You could give somebody the championship, and then the next week they make a commitment to go work somewhere else. So he's like, you kind of have to put the belt on yourself and use storylines of like, okay, it's like the evil heel, putting himself over.
And mind you, for anybody who hasn't, watched the Asylum years, which is what they are called for NWA TNA, is he originally didn't start out as the champion. He was more of just the guy that was like, the belt's mine.
Yeah.
Ken Shamrock was the first champion for that promotion, but he would come out every week and be like, the belt's mine. I'm the real champion. I'm gonna be the guy who's gonna be champion. So give me the belt. And from one week he's wrestling K Quick, to another week he's being attacked by the Tennessee Titans offensive line the year they lost to the Los Angeles Rams. And he's just talking smack to them. So I mean, obviously, like Jeff Jarrett, that's all I remember. And then recently in AEW is just this Jeff Jarrett, this TNA version of Jeff Jarrett that's gotten to come back to wrestling. And
And like, man, nobody can be hateable like Jeff. Did you see Ric Flair's last match?
yes, I did.
When he came out and he's like shoving members of the crowd and throwing their own drinks in their faces and stuff, like, dude, like that is some old school heat. And it like,
Yes.
as you're watching him, it's like, okay, that's a guy who knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly how to get heat. And I mean, he walked out of the curtain and got heat before he even hit the ring. No, didn't do one wrestling move, and everybody in the audience hated him. I mean, it was incredible.
Did you get to witness that live?
Yeah, I was working behind the scenes for Ric Flair's last match, and yeah, it's Jeff. Jeff, I've got to thank him for a lot of stuff there too, because Jeff, I was working on the My World social media, and so I would be going into his locker room and taking shots of him getting ready, and going over and getting shots of Ric Flair, and then the social media that was happening. It was myself, Evan Polisher, and my brother Dominic were grinding to make that happen. So all the live stuff that was coming up during that event was us, and then when it came time for the main event, we got everything set on social media, and then we just went out to watch. It's Ric Flair's last match. You got to go out and
Yeah.
see it.
Do you travel a lot with them? I'm gonna guess. Is
Uh,
that wherever they go, you go?
yeah, if there's an ad-free shows event, I'm there, generally speaking.
So you got to be at this past WrestleCade. Were they at this past WrestleCade or no?
They were not at WrestleCade, so the last thing that I did was Top Guy Weekend in Chicago, where on adfreeshows.com there's tiers of membership, and the top tier we call them Top Guys, and once a year we celebrate them by throwing Top Guy Weekend, where we have like a big event. So I'm sorry, Top Guy Weekend was in June, and that was in Huntsville. I'm thinking of Starcast was in
Starcast.
Chicago. Yeah,
Yeah.
yep, that's the last event I went to.
Do you guys work WrestleMania week? WrestleCon?
We have. So we did in 2022. 2023, I think we had a small presence out there, but I was unable to make it to California.
Okay, so 2022. You're what? You're still fresh with ad-free shows, correct?
I'd started full time in January of 2022. So I'd been working for them since August of 2021. January 2022 is when I went full time.
Okay. So, any weird things happen? Any crazy stories you can tell us?
Trying to think off the top of my head if there was anything crazy that happened. I mean, nothing really crazy jumps out at me. Just more than anything, it's like, the characters that you're bumping into when you're at those events, because it's like, you're working behind the scenes, and all of a sudden it's like, you find yourself sitting down at a table having lunch with Ric Flair or whatever, so it's like and not like, Ric Flair came to me. It's like, we're just eating in the same place, and we happen to be sitting beside each other, like shit like that happening.
Oh, dude, I don't. That's cool. Like, what conversations have you had with Ric Flair? If you can tell us any, like, is there any stories that he's told you that you could let us know?
One of the coolest things that happened was actually the first time I met Rick, which was in Chicago in 2021 for Top Guy Weekend. So 2021, we did Top Guy Weekend in Chicago. It was in September. So I had just started with the company a month before. And so I got invited to come out and help out with the event. So I came out, and Rick was there. And so we were all in the green room hanging around, and Rick came in, and he's just kind of BSing. Like, he knows that everybody's psyched to see him, right? Like,
Yeah.
even like all the workers that are there, like the wrestlers, it's like Ric Flair just walked in, so everybody kind of just stops what they're doing, and like, he goes around, and he knows everybody's excited, so he shakes everybody's hand and asks how everybody's doing, and then he sits down and he's just BSing. And he was in Chicago to see Steve Mongo McMichael, who has ALS, which my grandfather actually passed away from, Lou Gehrig's disease. And so he was there to see Steve Mongo McMichael, and he was like, I think it would really mean a lot to Mongo if we did a FaceTime with him, everybody here in this room. And we were like, yeah, let's do it. So we all got on FaceTime with Mongo, and it's just Rick has got a really, really big heart. He's got his character and his vibe, and the person that he puts out there in front of everybody. But in reality, Ric Flair is he's a guy, and he's a guy with a really big heart.
You seem like you're a big Ric Flair fan.
I love Rick. Yeah, yeah. It's I grew up mainly a huge fan of like Kevin Nash and the NWO, but as you start to like learn everybody's history and stuff, it's like, I gravitate back to Ted and Jake, of course, and then yeah, it's along the way, it's as I get to meet people and shake their hands and talk to them and kind of have personal experiences, it's like, yeah, I become a fan of them as a person, and then I get to see their work, and I'm like, I love them as a worker too.
Have you gotten to work with being with ad-free shows and Bruce Pritchard, obviously working in the WWE, Jake, working in AEW. Have you gotten to be backstage at either of those promotions?
I haven't. No, never have, as a matter of fact. So I will get, like, if AEW comes to Pittsburgh where I live, I can get tickets from like Jeff or Jake or Arn or somebody like that to go and see the event if I wanted to. Same thing with WWE. Like Road Dog will hook me up. So it's, it really all kind of just like depends on what the event is and who the connection is and if I can even go because I'm so damn busy with my job and my family now.
And congratulations, you're gonna have
Thank
another
you.
child. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So one of the last few things we're gonna talk about this background that you got,
Sure.
because I see a lot of different wrestling things.
Oh yeah. I was like, you like my professional background?
No, not your professional back. We'll talk. We'll give you your flowers and give you a few minutes to talk about that. But your background, it looks like you got a bunch of wrestling pictures back there.
Yeah, I have a ton of pictures. I've got like football stuff. Actually, we were talking about Cowboys. So here you go. I've got like old starting lineups from when I was a kid.
Oh wow!
Right. So I've got that kind of stuff like pennants, like just photos of like family, friends, stuff like that. And yeah, like some wrestling stuff because I figure like once I start doing a podcast, it's like okay, I need to have like a wrestling centric background to a degree, or at least sports centric. So yeah, I mean you can see I've got like a tennis racket up there and pennants and all kinds of cool shit. So yeah, it's a big mix of things.
What are you talking about, dude? Clearly, nobody would do wrestling backgrounds for a podcast. I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Gotta do it. Gotta do it. And it's like, it's funny because you've got to walk like a fine line of like, okay, I'm about to be in here with like, some Hall of Famers. I don't need to look like this mega fan who's going to be marking out whenever they come in. So it's like I kind of walk a fine line of like, hey, I'm a fan, but I'm also here for business.
And see, I have yet to figure that out because I have, autographs and toys. That's it. But that's the part of wrestling I love the most is the toys, the collecting and doing all that.
Yeah, I mean, like the action figures they're coming out with nowadays too are really cool because they're like statues, essentially. It's like
Yeah.
the exact image of these people. And it's like I don't think I'm ever gonna play with any action figures, but I think it's cool to like have them out and about. And it's like, it's a cool display. I would display it on my desk like I would a statue.
So one more football thing because I feel so sorry for you unless you love that city, but you are a Dallas fan in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
That is dangerous, is that not?
Dude. So I was at the game Dak's rookie year, Dak and Zeke, their rookie year 2016 in Pittsburgh, and it was the game of the year that year in the NFL. And the
That was
Cowboys.
was that the car pick in overtime?
No, that was so it was getting down to they were in the fourth quarter, and that was the handoff to Zeke, where he like ran up the middle and just broke the game.
I remember that.
Yes.
It was the year after that it was the pick in overtime because they were like, the Steelers could come back. Now they're in Dallas turf. Nope. Oh man.
Yeah, that was
That's
CM.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So I was there for that. And it was funny though, leaving the stadium, like, dude, I thought I was gonna get jumped. A lot of people were feeling really hostile around me. And yeah, they were not happy that the Cowboys won. And here I am, like grinning ear to ear, wearing all my Cowboy shit. So yeah, it can be a hairy environment, but really it boils down to like, my brother Dom, it's funny, I keep bringing up Dom because we're so connected, he's 2 years older than me. And we were so connected through everything in our youth, but he's my older brother, so I wanted to be like him. So he gets into wrestling, I got into wrestling. He started liking Emmett Smith, and again, I didn't know what the Super Bowl was. I didn't know anything about football, but I'm like, okay, my brother likes Emmett Smith, so I like whatever team he plays for. So I became a Cowboys fan, and then they won the Super Bowl that year. It was the last time they did. So it's yeah, people are like, oh, you're in Pittsburgh but you're a Cowboys fan. I'm like, I come by it naturally though. I came in just trying to be like my brother. It's the only reason.
You have to come by it naturally if you're a Cowboys fan in Pittsburgh.
Right.
I mean, there's no more where they can question you at that point.
As people still try to say like, oh, you probably became a fan in the 90s when they were winning Super Bowls, and it's like technically yes, but I didn't know what the Super Bowl was. Like I didn't know what we were even playing for. I just liked them because my brother did.
Yeah. That's cool. I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. You hold your brother in high regard is
Oh
what I
man,
can tell.
You know, you want to talk about a dude that grinds. That's him, man. You know, wrestling journalist out there busting his ass. He hosts a podcast with Rob Van Dam. He's also got something going on right now with Magnum TA and Greg Gagne, where it's looking like they're going to be having a podcast. So my brother Dominic D'Angelo, he's a pretty well-known wrestling journalist, and just, I mean, one of the hardest working dudes in the industry, bar none.
Is he with is he with like Fightful? Is he with The Observer, or is he just by himself?
He's with SE Scoops right now, but he's like a mercenary when it comes to being like a journalist. Like he started with WrestleZone, went to Wrestling Inc., went to Inside the Ropes. Now he's with SE Scoops. He also does like a private blog. He does stuff for ad-free shows actually behind the paywall, where like he'll get an interview with like he got an interview with Jesse Ventura, and so we put that on the ad-free shows network with Dominic as the host of it. So it's like, you know, he's, yeah, man, nobody grinds like him.
That's awesome. That's cool, man. Much respect to both of y'all.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And yeah, it's like I appreciate you kind of reminding me what it's all about here with this interview, because yeah, again, you get so swept away in the job aspect that you start to forget like how awesome it is. And it is very fortunate.
You guys are, I hope, and I'll say this, I hope this episode, normally we have wrestlers, but we're trying to get everybody in the industry. And every wrestler I interview, I usually say, what will you tell the people to young wrestlers who are starting? Currently, I am with a company in Albuquerque. I am training for my debut. That is another thing that I have added on top of trying to keep this weekly, on top of trying to do the social media, is travel out of town to go to class, to come back and do all of this and keep that connection with my coach, because I can't do it as often as I would like to until I can move there. And you know, I understand when you're saying like, man, there's so much stress to it, and there are times where my girlfriend, where she'll be like, remember, you're doing this because you love it. You're not
Yep.
doing this because you seek a goal. And that's why I even started podcasting, was because the original time, my first pitch was, I just want to meet people in this industry. Like, and when I pitched it to my brother, he was like, so that's solely what we're doing. And I was like, we're gonna do this until it stops being fun. And hopefully that's 10, 20 years from now. And if it's 10, 20 years from now, we'll probably be in a different position to where we don't have to be the main guy. We can work backstage. We can do different things. We can just enjoy it
Hopefully it
in our
never stops being
50s.
fun. Yeah, hopefully it never
Yeah.
stops being fun for you. I mean, eventually your body is not going to allow you to be taking bumps, but I mean, dude, just do it while you can, and in the meantime, keep doing this stuff, and like good things will happen if you're working hard. I have to ask you though, dude, what's your gimmick name? Do you have one yet?
So we're me and my girlfriend and my classmates are arguing. I take inspiration from my grandfather. His nickname is BC. He got me into wrestling. He's told me stories where he's gotten to meet Ted Dibiase, which I was like, that's so cool. Um, and have a chat with him. So I wanted something with BC, but I also want to stick to my name and just have BC as like a nickname. My girlfriend just wants to call me Bear Cage. She's like, BC Bear Cage. Everybody has stuck with that now. So
Bear cage.
I don't know why.
I like it though. It's unique.
See? That's what everyone says. They're like, man, if I was going to a show and there's a dude named Bear Cage, I'd want to see that guy. And I'm like,
Right.
that's, how do you brand that? How do you sell that? How do you make that a thing?
You're wearing a hoodie right now. I hope you're one of those dudes who's like covered chest and back with hair. It would
I
just
am not.
make you
That's
gotta
why I'm like, how does Bear Cage work?
you gotta get like glue and just glue hair to yourself.
I'm just gonna be like Gonzalez and have just an animal suit on me, and that's what I'm gonna do. No, I have not chosen a gimmick name yet. If it becomes Bear Cage, then I will send you the first ever promo pic of
Oh
Bear
my
Cage.
god, please do. And yeah, man, it's from what I've been told, sometimes you don't get to pick, sometimes it just comes to you. It sounds like that might be happening with Bear Cage.
I think it is. I think it is, unfortunately. So enough about me. Let us know your background. how'd you get into marketing? What made you want to choose marketing?
Really, what's funny is I didn't want to do it. I started out trying to be an actor, right out of high school. I wanted to be an actor. Went to school and decided to go to school for theater initially. And despite everybody telling me you might as well just go to school and waiting tables, I'm like, nope, not me. I'm going to be super successful. Got out of college, and guess what I ended up doing? I was waiting tables. So I did that for a while I tried to make the acting dream work, did a few things, and then, after a while I was like, you know what? Like it's looking like I've got to make a choice here. And my choice is either pursue acting and probably have to move to either New York or LA, or I can have a family. And I was like, you know what? I think I'd rather have a family and just live a normal life. So I went back and got my degree in business and did decide, okay, I kind of have an idea as to how to market, based on, how I did in that class, marketing. And so I said, okay, I'm going to try to get into marketing. Next thing you know, I'm doing that. I'm doing social media for a living. And that's kind of how I find myself where I am now.
That's interesting, dude. To acting.
The acting background has helped me a lot with the podcasting because like I'm used to being on camera, I'm used to being on stage in front of a ton of people. So it's like I don't really get nervous. It doesn't freak me out or make me uncomfortable to be in front of a camera or be put on the spot all of a sudden with uncomfortable situations. So yeah, it really helped me out. Becoming a podcast host.
Do you guys ever do live podcast? Like, have you guys done live podcasts? And
Jake and
which
I
shows did you?
Jake and I have done a live thing for ad-free shows where we did like a live Q&A with members over there. But really, it's we mostly just kind of record because it can be catch as catch can with Jake and Ted and Jim, where it's like those guys are still traveling a lot, going to conventions and stuff. So it's like I'll text them one day, like on a Monday or something, and be like, "Hey, what day can you record?" And sometimes it's a Monday. So, like sometimes they'll be like, "Hey, how about later today?" Or "How about Wednesday? How about Friday?" So it just varies so much. It's like we can't really plan on going live because I don't know when I'm going to get them.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Also, so that might explain, 'cause like you said, you were busy the other week. That's why we couldn't do it. Now I completely understand when you say you're busy. You don't know if we're gonna get recording and they're gonna text you and be like, "Hey, I'm good to do it right now."
Right. And so Jim and I only have 2 podcasts a month. We record every other week and then it comes out twice a month. And so some weeks I just have Jake and Ted to record. Some weeks I have Jake and then Ted and then Ad Free Shows ask me to host something. So it's like, some weeks I'll have like 5 recordings. Plus, like I said, I produce Jeff Jarrett's podcast. So I'm there live for his podcast whenever he's doing it, producing it there on the spot. So it's like in an average week, I've got a minimum of 3 and sometimes 4 or 5 recordings I have to do.
That's so weird to think about. Think about this. Early 2000s, back when, you were what? In the early 2000s, you were in high school.
Yeah, I was 2001. I was a freshman.
Okay. So, we'll do it to when you're out of high school. You're still trying to figure out what you're going to do, and now you're like, "Oh yeah, 3 podcasts a week and doing it and producing another podcast and doing this." Nobody back then would have thought this was a full-time job.
No, no. If I would have said, to my high school guidance counselor or whatever, like, "Hey, I want to be a podcaster," he'd have been like, "What? What is that?" So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was like the super, super infancy of that back in those days. Like, I don't know that a podcast even really existed. It was like you could do like a live online show or something.
And now you're doing like not only podcasting, you're podcasting professional wrestling, which still, and I fight it all the time, still gets shit on for what it is, and I will defend it every day because obviously we're especially us, like we get to make these wrestling podcasts, and so do Cultaholic and all these other guys. And with wrestling being in such a boom right now, does it make you want to do another show? Does it make you want to do more projects? Because we're getting to a resurgence, another renaissance, another golden age where people outside of wrestling are like, "Oh man, this is cool. Logan Paul's here. Bad Bunny's here." Wembley was almost sold out, debating on who you talk to, whether which side of tribalism you talk to.
Right.
So, like, does it make you ever want to do your own thing or do a thing with your brother or anything like that?
Yeah, as of right now, I'm just kind of like an open book where it's like, if another opportunity just happens to come along, I'm interested. Like the opportunity with Ted, it's really funny. I was in it was WrestleMania weekend, and Jake was at WrestleCon, and I was in Virginia visiting some friends, and it was funny because that day, the guy that we were visiting, he was like, he liked my show with Jake a lot. He was like, "Hey, if you could do a show with somebody else, who would it be?" And of course, I came at him with like well, I'd love to, have Austin or Bret Hart or Hogan or something like that. But then I also mentioned Ted. I was like, I'd love to do a show with Ted DiBiase. That would be a really cool one. No joke. That day, after I said that to him, Jake called me as we were out traveling somewhere. And I was like, "Hey, what's up?" And he was like, "Hey, do you want to do a podcast?" And I was like, "Well, you mean like record right now?" I was like, "Dude, I'm in Virginia. You're in LA. Like, I don't know how we're gonna make it work." And he was like, "No, no. Do you want to do another podcast with Ted DiBiase?" And I was like, yeah." And he was like, "Okay, here he is." And he just handed him the phone. And so like right there on the spot, I'm like, "Oh shit, okay." And so like I'm like, "Yeah, Ted, oh yeah," and we kind of worked out the details. And next thing you know, we're set for our first recording.
I love that humor. "Hey, do you wanna work with this guy?" "Yeah, okay, here." And just,
Yep.
"Okay, cool, man, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank you, brother."
I was caught off guard, and it's funny, my wife doesn't know wrestling, but I got off the phone and she was like, "Who are you just talking to?" I was like, "The $1,000,000 Man." She was like, "Ted DiBiase?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like, I was like, "Oh, wow, she knows him."
You were like, "Yeah, my first action figure.
That was it too.
He was talking to me. You believe it?"
If I said that to
Oh,
my mom, she'd be like, "Geez, we gotta get you to a shrink. I think your first action figure's talking to you."
my grandfather has a story that he got me into wrestling because he met, the Funks in West Texas back in the day. He met Ted DiBiase, and that's one that he's always stuck with. This man is in his mid-80s now, so he doesn't remember a lot, but when he does, I know it may mean something, and meeting the $1,000,000 Man was one thing that he'll always tell everybody.
So now, do you
So,
know, did he meet them, in, like, the '80s or the late '70s, like the Amarillo territory?
Amarillo territory.
Okay.
He did. He met the Funks in the Amarillo territory after a show. Him and his buddies were out in like an old county road. They were drinking, and the Funks pulled up, and they became friends from there. And the $1,000,000 Man, he never really said where he met him, but he always said that it was a good interaction. That Ted wasn't what he expected. So whenever anybody would talk bad about Ted DiBiase and be like, "Oh, he's this, that, or the other," as a heel, he would always defend him. So it's cool getting to talk to somebody who's gets to talk to him every day.
Man, one of the most kind-hearted people you'll ever meet, genuinely. Ted is such a kind-hearted man, very soft-spoken, very, very intelligent, and, it's just, man, getting to pick his brain once a week when it comes to wrestling, because he was a great character and this memorable, unforgettable character. I think a lot of people look past the fact that Ted in his prime, like 1989, 1990, essentially up until he retired, probably like arguably one of the best wrestlers in the business. If you go back and watch him work, man, it's like Ric Flair is considered the GOAT, and there's a great reason for it. It's because he's amazing. But Ted DiBiase could go with fucking anybody.
I'm focused when I think of Ted DiBiase. I look at the character and I look at even how far, even when he was away from the business and he came back to NXT. And he was doing that with Cameron Grimes and LA Knight. And I'm like, man, he could build anyone. Essentially,
Yes.
he could build anyone. There is no doubt about that. And now we're just going to spend the last few minutes just hyping up every single one of your co-hosts.
I'm good with that. We can do it. Yeah, no,
Oh,
it's I mean, getting Ted to put over any young talent, like, we did an Ask Ted Anything recently, and I can't remember if we made it to this question or not, so it might be on the next one, is, somebody asking, "Would you come back into wrestling again?" Like, if WWE offered you a spot, and, when I read that one, I was like, "Man, anybody would benefit from having Ted DiBiase as their manager because he knows how to get himself over, but he also knows how to get other people over. That was a big part of his job as a heel, and man, it's he can help just about anybody.
I 100% believe that. I believe that if he was on the main roster right now, if he wanted to go back to that WWE schedule, because I don't I don't see anybody in AEW. I love AEW. I defend it every week. I don't see anybody in AEW matching his aura, but I do see it in WWE. Is there are a lot more people that could be built? Austin Theory, Grayson Waller, Logan
Oh
Paul,
man, yeah, him and Austin
especially with
Theory right out of the gate sounds like a match made in heaven.
that would be insane. So, where can everybody find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus P Deangelo. P is in Paul. And yeah, I mean, I'm generally pretty easy to find on Facebook. I don't have a personal Instagram. Should probably get one to be honest, but I don't have one. But yeah, you can follow me on Facebook or Twitter, and like my DMs are open. And look, it's I know that a lot of hosts don't really like to read the criticism, and a lot of guys that I know won't go through YouTube comments and stuff. It's like I don't go on my way to check out YouTube comments, but I'm happy to look at them, and I'm even happy to receive criticism. Like if anybody dislikes what I'm doing, tell me. Like let's talk about it. I'm interested. I want to get better, and I sometimes I think the only way to get better is to allow yourself to get uncomfortable and read something that's not positive about yourself. So yeah, I mean, if somebody wants to send me something or give me advice or whatever, like I'm all ears. Go ahead. You won't hurt my feelings.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Or if you just want to chat with me, by the way, like if you just like my work, like I'm an accessible dude. Like go ahead, hit me up, and we can chat, and we can just talk wrestling. We can talk about the podcast. You can tell me stuff you want me to ask the guys or subjects you want us to talk about. I'm all ears. Hit me up.
And you, my friend, are welcome at any time. If you ever get, that burnout, like you said, and that this is therapeutic, and you just want two young guys to just hype you up and say, "Man, you are doing a hell of a job," or if you just want to talk wrestling for a week, just hit me up and be like, "Hey, man, you know what? Let's talk wrestling."
For
I'd
sure,
love to
man.
have you. I'd love to have your brother on. Have my brother on. We'll have a battle of the brothers. Essentially,
Hell
that's what we'll
yes.
have.
Hell yes, I love it. Yeah, no, this was an awesome experience, and yeah, dude, anytime you want me on the show, hit me up if I'm available. If my schedule's not too crazy, if I don't have a kid crying in the background, I'm in.
All right, sounds good. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this episode. I hope you guys liked it. You got another episode where I'm just freaking out and I'm enjoying every second of this conversation. I hope you guys go follow our new friend. Go see everything that he does. Go listen to some legends, man. You're gonna learn so much as a wrestling fan. And if you're a young wrestler like me and you're just trying to get to your debut, or if you're less than 5 years, because I've started figuring out that that's where you start hitting veteran status, is if you're 5 years or over. If you're less than 5 years, man, listen to these episodes, because this is where we learn. This is where we get better. This is where we grow together, and where we will soon one day get to hold our championships and debut. And maybe I'll see this man at a WrestleCade. Hopefully not. Hopefully I'll get to meet him in person at a different event and get to give another Cowboys brother a hug.
Hell
Later,
yes,
guys.
man.